Guillermo del Toro's 2025 adaptation of Frankenstein just delivered the most haunting and visceral take on Mary Shelley's classic tale we've ever seen. And del Toro's signature blend of gothic horror and profound humanity ensures every frame serves the dual purpose of terrifying audiences while forcing them to confront uncomfortable questions about creation, abandonment, and what truly makes us monsters. We're about to take you through every crucial moment of del Toro's masterpiece, revealing how Victor Frankenstein's obsession with conquering death leads to a tragedy that spans generations and continents. Here's a recap of everything that happened in Frankenstein 2025. The film opens with a ship trapped in the crushing ice of the North Pole. As the crew desperately tries to break free from nature's frozen grip, the setting immediately establishes themes of human ambition colliding with forces beyond our control. Captain Walton pushes his exhausted men forward despite their protests, driven by the same obsessive determination that will refine our protagonist. The discovery of a mysterious fire in the distance leads to the rescue of Victor Frankenstein, a broken man with a prosthetic leg who carries warnings about a monster that will soon prove all too real. The monster's first appearance transforms the rescue into a nightmare, and this creature's supernatural strength, allowing him to lift entire ships and shrug off gunfire, immediately establishes that we're dealing with something that transcends normal physical laws. The brutal efficiency with which the monster dispatches the crew members demonstrates both his incredible power and his focused intelligence. This isn't a mindless beast, but a being with specific goals and the ability to achieve them through calculated violence. Victor's promise to tell his story to Captain Walton creates the narrative framework that allows del Toro to explore the causation chain that led to this Arctic confrontation. Since Victor understands that the monster will return and that others need to understand the danger, his confession becomes both warning and cautionary tale about the price of unchecked scientific ambition. Victor's childhood reveals the psychological foundation for everything that follows, and because his wealthy family background masks deep dysfunction and emotional neglect, we see how privilege can't protect children from the trauma of parental failure. The death of Victor's beloved mother during childbirth creates the defining trauma that will drive his entire life's work, the desperate need to prove that death can be conquered through human ingenuity and determination. The confrontation between young Victor and his father after his mother's death establishes the emotional core of the entire story. And Victor's accusation that his father didn't do enough to save her plants the seed of Victor's obsession with surpassing his father's medical knowledge. His father's dismissive response, that no one can conquer death, becomes the challenge that Victor will spend his life trying to disprove. When Victor declares that he will one day be more successful than his father, he's not just making a boastful claim, but setting the course for a tragedy that will consume multiple lives. Victor's university years showcase his evolution from grieving son to ambitious scientist. And since his presentation of reanimated corpse parts powered by electrical current shocks both students and professors, we see how his unconventional approach to science sets him apart from traditional academic thinking. The introduction of Harland, the former army surgeon who becomes Victor's financial backer and scientific collaborator, provides the practical knowledge that Victor needs to achieve his goals. Because Harland understands the human lymphatic system and can identify the precise points where electrical energy can be stored and distributed throughout the body. His expertise transforms Victor's theoretical knowledge into practical application. Their partnership represents the dangerous combination of unlimited funding and scientific curiosity without ethical oversight. Harland's demonstration of the lymphatic system's energy distribution points becomes the key breakthrough that makes Victor's creation possible. This knowledge allows Victor to understand exactly where to place the electrical conductors in his assembled body. The scene serves as both scientific exposition and dramatic foreshadowing. The body collection sequences reveal the moral compromises that Victor makes in pursuit of his goal. And since he harvests parts from death row inmates and battlefield casualties, Del Toro shows how scientific ambition can desensitize people to human dignity and suffering. Victor's clinical approach to dismembering corpses demonstrates how his obsession has already begun transforming him into something monstrous, even before he creates his actual monster. The creation sequence itself represents the film's visual and thematic climax. And because Del Toro stages it during a violent thunderstorm that provides both the electrical power and the gothic atmosphere, the scene feels both scientifically plausible and supernaturally charged. Harlan's accidental death during the process adds tragic irony. The man who made the creation possible dies just as his dream of conquering death is about to be realized. Victor's decision to proceed with damaged equipment despite Harlan's death demonstrates his complete commitment to the experiment, regardless of the personal cost. The monster's awakening transforms Victor from confident creator to terrified parent. The creature's first word is Victor, and this moment establishes the fundamental relationship that will define both characters throughout the story. The monster's childlike behavior and limited vocabulary create an immediate parallel to human development, suggesting that this being will need guidance, education, and love to become fully realized. Victor's decision to proceed with damaged equipment despite Harlan's death demonstrates his complete commitment to the experiment, regardless of the personal cost. The monster's awakening transforms Victor from confident creator to terrified parent. The creature's first word is Victor, and this moment establishes the fundamental relationship that will define both characters throughout the story. The monster's childlike behavior and limited vocabulary create an immediate parallel to human development, suggesting that this being will need guidance, education, and love to become fully realized. Victor's fear and rejection of his creation at this crucial moment plants the seeds for all the tragedy that follows. The introduction of Elizabeth and William, Victor's brother and his fiancée, brings normal human relationships into contact with Victor's supernatural creation. And since Elizabeth immediately shows empathy and curiosity toward the monster, while Victor responds with fear and control, we see how different approaches to the unknown can lead to vastly different outcomes. Elizabeth's willingness to touch the monster and study his wounds demonstrates the kind of acceptance and understanding that Victor should have provided, but couldn't. The monster's fascination with Elizabeth creates a complex dynamic that goes beyond simple attraction. She represents everything he lacks: acceptance, kindness, and genuine human connection. Her presence in his life becomes both salvation and torment. The fact that she sees him as him, rather than it, provides the first recognition of his personhood that the monster has received, making her loss even more devastating when it eventually comes. Victor's decision to chain the monster in the dungeon represents his fundamental failure as a creator. And because he treats his creation as a dangerous animal rather than a being capable of growth and learning, he ensures that the monster will develop resentment and anger rather than love and loyalty. The monster's panic when Victor leaves him alone reveals his desperate need for connection and approval, emotions that Victor either can't or won't recognize. If you're fascinated by how Del Toro transforms classic literature into visceral cinema and want to see more analysis of his unique approach to horror storytelling, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're diving deep into how master filmmakers adapt beloved stories for modern audiences, and you won't want to miss what we discover next. The monster's violent retaliation when Victor tries to teach him through abuse demonstrates how trauma creates cycles of violence. And while the creature's supernatural strength allows him to break free from his chains and terrify Victor, this moment establishes that the power dynamic between creator and creation has fundamentally shifted. The monster's ability to heal from wounds that would kill a normal person makes him nearly invincible, but also emphasizes his isolation from the human world. Victor's attempt to destroy the monster by burning down the castle represents his complete failure to take responsibility for his creation. And since he chooses destruction over understanding, he ensures that their conflict will escalate rather than resolve. Victor's injury during the escape, which costs him his leg, provides physical evidence of how his choices have permanently damaged him. The monster's survival and journey into the wider world begins his true education about humanity, and because he encounters both kindness and cruelty from the people he meets. He learns that humans are capable of both great compassion and terrible violence. His time with the blind old man and his family provides the love and acceptance that Victor denied him, showing what the monster could have become with proper guidance and care. The old man's wisdom about forgiveness and the importance of understanding one's origins gives the monster the philosophical framework he needs to make sense of his existence. As the old man treats him as a person worthy of respect and friendship, the monster experiences genuine happiness for the first time. The monster's discovery of Victor's documents and his brother's wedding invitation provides him with the knowledge he needs to track down his creator. And because he now understands his origins and Victor's abandonment, his quest for revenge becomes focused and personal, rather than random and chaotic. The monster's ability to read and understand complex emotions makes him more dangerous than a simple beast, but also more tragic because he knows exactly what he's lost. The wedding infiltration sequence brings all the story's themes together in a devastating climax. The monster's appearance forces Victor to choose between protecting his family and confronting his creation. The scene reveals how Victor's past failures have made it impossible for him to save the people he loves. Elizabeth's accidental death when Victor tries to shoot the monster represents the ultimate consequence of Victor's inability to accept responsibility for his creation. William's death during the struggle adds another layer of tragedy. And since he dies trying to protect his family from a monster that his brother created, his death demonstrates how Victor's choices have consequences that extend far beyond his own life. The monster's grief over Elizabeth's death reveals that he never intended to harm her, making the tragedy even more heartbreaking because it could have been prevented with better communication and understanding. The final pursuit sequence transforms both Victor and the monster into obsessed hunters. And because Victor's attempt to kill the monster with explosives fails due to the creature's supernatural resilience, their conflict becomes an endless cycle of violence and revenge that can only end in mutual destruction. The monster's survival of the explosion demonstrates that conventional weapons cannot destroy what science has created, making their conflict seem hopeless and eternal. The monster's final confrontation with Victor aboard the ship provides the emotional resolution that the story demands. As Victor finally acknowledges the monster as his son and asks for forgiveness, this moment offers the possibility of redemption even in the face of inevitable death. The monster's decision to kiss his dying creator suggests that love and forgiveness remain possible, even after terrible trauma and violence. The monster's departure into the Arctic wasteland provides a haunting conclusion that leaves his ultimate fate ambiguous, choosing isolation over revenge. His final act demonstrates that he has learned the lessons about forgiveness and humanity that the old man tried to teach him. The image of the monster walking alone into the frozen wilderness suggests both punishment and freedom. He will live with the consequences of his actions, but he will also be free from the cycle of violence that defined his relationship with Victor. Del Toro's Frankenstein succeeds because it understands that the real horror lies not in the monster's supernatural abilities, but in the very human failures of communication, empathy, and responsibility that create the conditions for tragedy. The film grounds its gothic elements in recognizable emotions and relationships. It transforms Mary Shelley's cautionary tale into a meditation on what we owe to the beings we create, whether they're children, students, or works of art. The film's ultimate message suggests that monsters are made, not born, and that the responsibility for their actions lies partly with those who shape them through neglect abuse, or abandonment. If you want to explore more analysis of how master filmmakers like Del Toro adapt classic literature while maintaining its timeless themes, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, and let me know in the comments what you thought of this haunting take on Frankenstein's monster. The questions it raises about creation, responsibility, and redemption will stay with you long after the credits roll.